Welcome back. If you're the kind of person who wants to know exactly how the world is shifting under our feet, you're in the perfect spot. Today, we're doing a deep dive explainer on the 2026 World Cup. But look, we aren't going to be talking about team formations or passing tactics today. Instead, we are looking at a massive hidden surveillance network running quietly in the background of every match. Welcome to the high-tech panopticon.
We've all been there, right? You just watched an incredible goal. The whole stadium completely erupts. But then, the goal gets disallowed. A player was ruled offside by what looked like absolutely nothing, just a fraction of an inch. Why was that goal disallowed by millimeters? What is really happening in that agonizingly close moment behind the scenes? Well, the answer actually lies in a wild web of technology that nobody really told you about.
To really get this, we've got to talk about something called a panopticon. Basically, it's a state of constant, total surveillance, where the people being watched never quite know exactly when the camera is on them. Sound like sci-fi? Well, it's not anymore. The 2026 World Cup is officially the most technologically surveilled sporting event in human history. Literally every movement, every tiny moment, is being captured. All right, so where does all this surveillance actually begin? Let's zoom right into the absolute center of the action. The ball itself. This is the Adidas Trayon, the official ball for this World Cup. It looks totally normal on the outside, right? But hidden deep inside this ball is a wildly advanced piece of tech. And that brings us to a mind-blowing number, 500. That little hidden internal sensor, it fires 500 times every single second. Just think about that for a second. While this ball is being kicked at absolute full power by a professional footballer, spinning and flying through the air, this sensor is successfully tracking every single touch, every acceleration, 1,000 times a second. It's crazy. But here's where it gets kind of funny, honestly. Because it's packed with all that heavy tech, the most watched object at this World Cup now shares a super frustrating trait with your smartphone. It needs to be charged before the match. Yeah, FIFA literally has to keep multiple fully charged backup balls stationed all around the pitch, just so play is never stopped by a flat battery. Imagine telling a football fan 20 years ago that we'd have to plug the football into the wall before kickoff. But the ball is really just the tip of the iceberg here. If we zoom out a bit, we step into this massive, invisible web of data that's tracking the players as they move across the pitch. Every single second of the match generates a staggering 30,000 data points. So where on earth is all that coming from? Well, check out the sheer scale of this setup. Every single stadium is rigged with 12 dedicated tracking cameras. And they aren't just following the ball. They track all 22 players on the pitch simultaneously. And it's not just a general location dot. They are actively tracking 29 distinct body parts on every single player. Arms, legs, shoulders, head, you name it. And they capture all of this 50 times per second. That's how we hit that 30,000 data points a second mark, just from the cameras alone. So how does all this data actually translate into those agonizing offside calls? It's basically a three-step process. Step 1 happens before the tournament even starts. Every single player undergoes a 1-second full-body scan to make a perfect digital clone of themselves. Then, step 2 is that live camera tracking during the actual game. Finally, step 3, and this is the real magic trick. When a potential offside happens, an AI instantly takes all that live data and rebuilds the player's exact digital avatar right there on the pitch. Which brings us to a super crucial metric, 10. The AI uses that 3D avatar to figure out precisely where a player's shoulder was at the exact millisecond the ball was kicked. Forget where their feet were standing, it's tracking the shoulder, and it measures this down to 10 centimeters. That's literally the width of your hand. Because of this insane 10-centimeter precision, we are seeing goals disallowed at this World Cup that absolutely 100% would have counted at the last one. Now, you can probably imagine this whole setup dramatically changes life for the people actually running the game. The referee is now stuck right in the middle of this invisible, high-tech web of data. So let's look at the referee's totally new reality. It creates this really fascinating philosophical shift. The AI measures, but the human decides. We completely trust the AI with the super precise math, right? But we still don't trust it with the final judgment. The system simply gives the ref a recommendation. The human referee still has to blow the whistle. Which means that when the tech glitches, or when it's a massively controversial call, the human ref is still entirely responsible and left taking all the heat from furious fans and players. And because the referees are taking all that heat, they're getting a major tech upgrade of their own. Across all 104 matches of this tournament, for the very first time in World Cup history,
Every single referee is wearing a body camera. You can now literally watch the chaos unfold right from the ref's point of view. But why add body cameras right now? Well, there are a few reasons floating around. Officially, FIFA says it's to help fans understand decisions better by letting them see what the ref sees. Makes sense. Second, it undeniably catches all the verbal abuse referees get from players, up close and personal. But there's this third, speculative theory out there. Some suspect all this massive amount of first-hand, point-of-view footage is quietly being scooped up as training data for future AI referees. We'll have to impartially track how that develops, but hey, the data collection is definitely happening today. All right, let's zoom out one last time to the widest, most extreme level of this panopticon. We've done the ball, the players, and the refs. Now we're looking at the actual physical stadium perimeter and the airspace directly above it. Welcome to the new era of dogs, drones, and ultra-high-tech security. The security escalation here is honestly wild. Sure, step one is your traditional human police officers. We expect that. But step two, we're talking robot dogs patrolling the stadiums. Up in the US, they're deploying Boston Dynamics Spot robots, 4 metal legs absolutely loaded with cameras and sensors. Down in Mexico, the city of Guadalupe went ahead and bought their own robot dogs for $145,000 a pop. Their specific job? To go into dangerous zones before human cops do. And then there's step 3, way up in the sky. I know this sounds straight out of an action movie, but it is 100% real. Hovering above these stadiums are security drones, and their only job is to hunt down other unauthorized drones. And how do they stop them? They literally shoot nets out in midair to tangle up the rogue drones and bring them down. It's incredible.
It's honestly a bit dizzying when you take a step back. 500 hertz ball sensors, AI avatars measuring shoulders to the centimeter, body cams, robot dogs, drone-catching drones. It is a lot. But you know what? Despite this absolute mountain of sci-fi tech wrapped around the pitch, the game itself remains exactly the same. The basic, beautiful game of football you tuned in to watch hasn't fundamentally changed its rules.
But when you stack all these layers together, you really do get that true panopticon we talked about earlier. The ball is being tracked by an internal sensor. The players are being tracked by a dozen cameras, turning them into digital avatars. The refs are tracking the pitch through live body cams. And the stadium itself is secured by robot dogs and net-firing drones. All of this just for a football match. So the next time you see a goal waved off by a fraction of an inch, you now know exactly what kind of invisible machinery is grinding away behind the scenes to make that call. The source material for today's explainer actually leaves us with this somewhat chilling thought that I think perfectly captures this whole shift. It says, the game has not changed. Everything around it has. The game has not changed. You have. And it's totally true, isn't it? We, the fans, demand this absolute millimeter-perfect precision now, and we're apparently completely willing to build a massive surveillance empire just to get it. Which leaves us with a pretty massive question to chew on as we wrap up. If a simple football match requires this unprecedented, crazy level of surveillance, what happens when this kind of tech becomes our everyday reality? I mean, if we can digitally reconstruct a guy's shoulder in milliseconds just to deny a goal, what else are these systems going to be measuring in our future? Huge thanks for exploring this high-tech panopticon with me today. Until next time, stay curious and definitely keep questioning what you see.